Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now Krillin is often maligned for being someone who is considered to be a bit of a wimp. However, that really isn't the case. This little duck is probably one of the pluckiest persons in the entire series. Despite his power being lower than the big ones up top, he still comes in and gives it a go anyway. Can you imagine what could happen if he had become a Saiyan on top of that? I think there could have been even more chances for his guile and decision-making skills to be highlighted and praised in this world. And here, he had done so, ultimately endearing himself to Goku even more. Today's video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and MasakoX. With MasakoX, you'll receive 20 traditional and authentic artisan Japanese snack items, including Japanese teas and one special example of Japanese tableware with your box every month. MasakoX helps in partnering with local Japanese snack makers to continue to share Japanese culture and traditions that have been passed down for over 100 years. You're helping that tradition live on. This month, have tea time in Yokohama, a place I visited no less, where MasakoX partnered with the Kanagawa government and local businesses to create a one-of-a-kind, Yokohama-inspired box design to promote traditional Yokohama confectionery, snacks and teas. This box really reminded me of its charm with its elegant design and their exquisite orange cake which is in this box. As for Tokyo Treat, you'll get to try up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks, which are only available for a very short time. The Summer Matsuri box this month encapsulates what Japan's summer festivals have to offer, such as these lemon salt senbei and salty vanilla pocky. Salted caramel's got nothing on these. Both boxes also come with an information snack guide which gives you extra details like ingredients, allergen advice, and fascinating context behind each snack so you learn whilst you indulge. You can go to my second channel up on the lookout to see more from these boxes, or you can get $5 off your first MasakoX or Tokyo Treat box by using the code MasakoX at checkout, or via the links in the description before June 30th. Do please give this a gander, and thanks once again to MasakoX and Tokyo Treat for sponsoring today's video. Cheers! In the last part, Future 18, otherwise known as Lazuli here, had made a life with Krillin. Whilst Future Lazuli had felt a little selfish for coming back to the past instead of remaining in the future, and she's staying here, her now husband reminded her that she had done all that she could to fix the future. She'd taken years to do so, making sure it was well protected. She deserved a break and a chance to live her life as a free woman, instead of a simple fighting machine. She took kindly to those words, and they promptly got married and had their baby Marron, whose future will be a lot more involved in this narrative than in the original, I can assure you. But let her have a childhood for now, okay? In the midst of this, Goku and Krillin perfected the art of Super Saiyan. That's basically using Super Saiyan and Kaioken together. And King Kai was very pleased to see his technique not only being used a lot, but being perfected too. He knew that the power was in good hands with these two, despite their heritage wanting to say something different. The biggest change from all this though, as we go into the Buu saga, is that there is no great Saiyaman, since Gohan's influence was not swayed by that team, and more focused towards his friends this time, so no dressing up here. But there is also the matter of a different Hercule, and now fighting his daughter. But he didn't look right, and nor would he act right when we resume things. Piccolo stared at these two beings clearly not from this world. Krillin asked him what was up with those two, but the Namekian, who would usually oblige when asked, didn't. Instead, he ignored our little duck, but Lazuli insisted that Piccolo answer her husband, or else she would give him a smack. I doubt you'd be able to lay a finger on me right now. What was that, you overgrown pickle? She barked with anger and feeling a little insulted, but the big green pickle had a point, Krillin thought. Now that he had thought about it and could sense it clearly, Piccolo's energy did feel different, stronger, but like also he combined with someone else. Piccolo? Why does it feel like Kami's here too? But I can't see him anywhere. Piccolo looked a little shifty. Well, you see, it's to do with... But before they could find out more about Piccolo's precarious predicament, sudden fusion with Kami, the crowd were aghast with the events that were going on the arena floor. Now you think that Videl had a rough time against Popovich? Well, it's worse here. This isn't for effect either, because Videl here was utterly wasted by her own father. Without Gohan's training to not even give her a slight leg up and a chance against someone imbued with ki and magic like Popovich was, she was quite simply walking meat for this weird Hercule to dunk on. The announcer was utterly confused. Why would Hercule be so cruel and vicious against its own daughter? Granted, they were both martial artists, they had that background, and that injury in that sport was accidental and came with the territory. But this was going too far. The Dell was left on the brink of death. She was gasping for air, unable to get up, and about to be finished by her own dad. The crowd could almost hear her cries for help, begging her father to stop, but they fell on deaf ears, and the crowd were just numb. They had no idea what to do. They were demanding this to stop, and the announcer could sense this. He felt this was enough. He warned Hercule that despite his role as being defending champion, that fatalities were against the rules and that he would not only be disqualified if he carried on, but arrested for such acts. Yeah! You tell him, announcer dude! The giant figure of Hercule just silently walked out of the ring once the announcer had declared victory to Hercule. But there were no cheers for him. Not even boos. Just silence. I don't know whether that's better or worse. Gohan and all this? Well, he was quite mad, but this madness was not love-driven. Instead here, he just wanted to be a nice guy. Not a nice guy, a nice bloke. He asked if anybody had any sensor beans to hand. Piccolo did. He stopped off at Korin's place before he got here, seemingly thinking they might be necessary. Well, they were. Krillin was thankful for this since he had been meaning to ask Korin himself. Thusly, Gohan took one bean and went off to find Videl. He found her off near one of the exits on a stretcher, about to be loaded by the ambulance workers into an awaiting vehicle. He fed her the bean and helped her chew it. She was unable to see straight and assumed that this was one of the doctors, so complied. But in seconds, her sight was fully restored, and all her wounds were gone. Healed. She felt fine. She bolted upright on the stretcher and looked around with frantic alarm, and then spotted Gohan. Gohan? What are you doing here? I came and, healed you. Healed me? She looked confused. Could he do that? He was weird, to be fair. He then explained that he had special beans that could fix all wounds and restore energy. I mean, she couldn't deny that fact, since she had just experienced it. Well, I don't know what to say. Thanks, I guess. She was a little muted, since her father had almost killed her without any sign of regret. That'd do that to you. Gohan then explained that something didn't feel right with Hercule, and that could explain his actions. I could tell from his energy that he wasn't acting himself, if it makes you feel any better. Something was wrong. I'm sure that he didn't mean to hurt you that much if he were in total control of his faculties. Videl was still processing this. Are you some kind of homeopath, Gohan? Gohan was bemused with the question, but since he didn't want to overwhelm her right now, he muttered, You could say that. And the pair of them then got talking. As he escorted her to a nearby drinks bar, just to recover, the physicians were looking very confused as to how she could suddenly get up from that beatdown, what she had been through. Well, these kids today are bomb-proof! Meanwhile, Krillin and Tenshinhan had been sparring in the ring, thankfully taking the mind off of Videl's beatdown from the crowd. This was being a good fight, like how you're supposed to. But Piccolo was still watching the odd couple nearby. Could this be the Supreme Kai and his attendant? The fight ended with Krillin winning, but not before a very spirited fight between the pair of them. Tenshinhan was quite pleased that he could at least keep up with the new Saiyan these days, and Krillin himself was surprised that even after all this time, his vitality felt the same as it had done when he first got the wish to become like Goku. Did Saiyans age at all, he thought? Well, about that, you'll find out soon enough. It's kind of drastic. It came to Krillin's turn again, and he was now facing that Hercule guy. He wasn't worried though. Despite this fool's rather barbaric nature, his daughter was only slightly stronger than the strongest martial artist from the regular folk who wasn't a Dragon Team member, so this bozo should be a walk in the park. Right? Well, that was until he started talking, something he hadn't done since arriving. Show me, Krillin. You know my name? It was odd. He'd never met Hercule before in his life. Did this guy recognize him from the 23rd tournament, perhaps? Your Super Saiyan strength. Show me. Krillin was stunned. He would definitely not know about that if he were a regular bloke. He refused and started to fight Hercule with his regular form. But surprisingly, He was struggling against this one. What was going on here? The Dragon team were aghast. How could a human be this strong? In a fit of bravado and slight necessity, Krillin chose to oblige this idiot and then would proceed to waste him. Hopefully. Krillin powered up and smirked. There! You happy? Hercule remained ashen-faced. There it is. Ill-gotten gains. Huh? What are you talking about? You don't deserve that power. You only got that through desperation. No making of amends can eschew that fact. You are a chancer, a low-life sneak, and not worthy of that energy. It doesn't belong to you. Krillin was starting to get a little scared, but the Saiyan nature in him kept him in place. Or at least, he thought that was his Saiyan pride keeping him in place. It felt very constraining. But he was still keen to take this moron down for hurting his pride like that, though. Lazuli was trying to calm her husband down, make him see sense, but he wasn't listening to her or anyone. He was in his own head and actually crumbling. How could he know any of this? It was like this guy was in his head, reading his worries, parroting his concerns to all. It was horrible, hearing this being said out loud. I've not yet begun to show you what I can do. I'll make you sorry! With that, without heeding the other's warnings, Krillin activated Super Saiyan, and the entire ring was covered in red energy. Looked good for the crowds, though. Are you satisfied now? Before I slam your face into the dirt? Hercule smirked back. It still doesn't take away the fact that the power doesn't belong to you. Let us relieve you of that burden. Instantly, his accomplice, it's Karoni because why not, leapt into the ring and grabbed Krillin by the torso and inserted something into him. Stop it! The energy doohickey, come on. In seconds, Krillin could feel his energy being drained, and yet something was keeping him in place, like he couldn't move of his own free will. He thought that had been his Saiyan pride keeping him in place, his bravery, but nope. Even he would have run by now. Not long after that, he powered down and was clinging onto consciousness. When he tried to lock eyes on the dastardly Hercule and his crony, oh, they were gone. He could feel the thing holding him there dissipate though, and he collapsed. Lazuli grabbed a beam from Piccolo and hurried onto the ring. You idiot. You fell for his trick. Wow, what a bedside manner, Lazuli. Krillin smiled jokingly whilst regaining his strength. Sorry, hon. That was the monkey talking. She smiled though. At least he was back in the room. Piccolo then turned to the two strangers and then demanded to know what they were doing here. Yeah, it took you long enough to ask, Piccolo. The duo announced themselves as Shin and Kibito and told them of the perils of Barbary and Dabura. They were here to awaken a powerful genie locked away in the depths of Earth, which could spell doom for not only the galaxy, but the entire universe. Majin Buu. I apologize for allowing you to be subjected to that, Krillin, but it had to be done. Now we know where they're going with your energy. We must take this chance and go after them. With that, the crew set off to find Hercule and Karoni, but not before finding out that Piccolo had fused with Kami and thusly there were no Dragon Balls now, until Dende could make some new ones. No pressure. Gohan though chose to stay behind and keep an eye on the kids and make sure that Videl got home safely. But she wasn't going anywhere. You intrigue me, dork. I want to know more about you. Gohan didn't really like being called that, but at least she was talking to him. He could set the record straight now. It also helped matters that she found out that he was the son of the 23rd martial arts champion Goku. Good little icebreaker that. When the others got to the location of Hercule and Karoni, they could see another two figures outside a little building. That's the top of Barbady's spaceship, by the way. The being known as Hercule handed the device over to what looked like a little potato man. The taller man, though, smirked as Barbary praised his two cronies for doing well. But he no longer needed them, and before either of them could process what that meant and what this could spell for their future, well, Hercule came down with a bad case of the explosions. A very bad case of it, whilst Karoni was simply blasted by Dabura when he tried to turn tail and run. The Dragon team were horrified at the callous nature of those two. And how would Videl handle finding out that her dad was dead? That is if she forgave him, of course. Lazuli elected to get a little closer. Since she gave off no energy thanks to her android composition, she might be able to try and get the jump on them, maybe try and get the device off that little one. Shin agreed to this and Lazuli begun to slunk down the rock face. But before she could get any distance away, Deborah had spotted the main group, not her yet, and greeted them with a little spit shine, which got Piccolo and Tenshinhan this time around, and then turned them into stone. In the midst of this, the group was stunned into silence. He then spoke.
Think of that as a warning. Do not intervene in mine and Master Babidi's business. No matter what that purple oaf there tells you, this is for the betterment of all of life.
Lazuli had used her stealth mode and punched Deborah in the nads from below. Deborah was compromised, and before he could find out who had done it, Goku and Krillin took this chance, used this moment, and charged on the beast, and with Lazuli's assistance to boot, completely pummeled him into submission. But before they could finish him off entirely, Babidi had noticed this carnage unexpectedly and transported his attendant and himself deep into the bowels of his vessel to safety. Lazuli cursed this missed opportunity. I almost had him. Hey, we helped too, said Krillin with a mild resentment. That being said, the crew felt a little optimistic at least that this could maybe wrapped up soon enough had this guy been that much of a pushover. I mean, they did almost have him, like Lazuli said. Shin was astounded. Your power is immense. Stronger than even Frieza's. Krillin gave him a thumbs up. Buddy, everyone here is stronger than Frieza. Whilst processing that, the plan now was to access the base of Babidi and Deborah, trying to get themselves closer to where that spherical ball that housed Majin Buu was located, and ensuring that Krillin's energy was not used against them. They got to the door and it bizarrely opened without question. It was almost like Babidi was testing them. No matter, these tests would be a doddle, right? Vegeta was now getting annoyed. He had been wanting to showcase his new powers, and yet had no chance to do so at this point. Not even against that Demon King.
Whoever we find first, let me at them.
You got that, he grumbled. The others let him have that, and sure enough, Pui Pui was there to oblige. Sadly for the prince though, he didn't even need to use his Super Saiyan powers to utterly dominate against Pui Pui, to tank him.
That doesn't count, he muttered to the group.
They shrugged and just let him have the next one. They didn't really care. So long as they made it down to the ship below as quickly as possible and stopped Boo being awoken, then that's fine. Meanwhile, Deborah was suffering badly. His injuries were quite bad. Babidi hadn't specialized in healing powers himself and merely told his attendant to walk it off, await Boo's awakening to be revived because he could heal well. Deborah then watched on in pain as he watched the group face off against Yakon, hoping that Babidi's pet would be enough to stop them long enough for him to recover a little bit. But that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. Wow, what a kick in the balls, right, Deborah? If you like this idea of Hercule acting differently, check out the full story of Hercule becoming a less benevolent person here, and how that could spell doom for Earth, not just himself. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!